The soft glow of the late afternoon sun spilled through the tall windows of Leighton Grill, casting golden streaks across the polished hardwood floors. The restaurant bustled with the sound of clinking cutlery, murmured conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter. It was the kind of charming mid-scale place that drew in professionals for lunch meetings and couples for cozy dinners. But beneath the appealing ambience, something felt off, at least. That's what David Leighton suspected. David, the owner and founder of Leighton Grill, sat quietly at a corner table. Today, though, he wasn't the distinguished man in a tailored navy suit. He wore jeans, a wrinkled flannel shirt, and a baseball cap that shadowed most of his face. No one in the building knew his true identity. For the staff, he was just another customer, maybe a traveling salesman or a lonely writer. He had spent the last few months reviewing troubling customer feedback, complaints about poor service, undercooked meals, and a cold atmosphere. It was hard to believe. Leighton Grill had once been the crown jewel of his small restaurant group, so rather than rely on reports or second-hand accounts, David made a decision that had felt equal parts foolish and brave. He would go undercover. His plan was simple. He would dine at the restaurant unannounced, observe the staff, taste the food, and experience what a regular guest would. If there were problems, he wanted to see them for himself. The hostess, a young woman named Brooke, had greeted him with a distracted smile and led him to his table without much fanfare. Her uniform was tidy, but her energy was low, her eyes darting toward the back of the house like she was bracing for something. David noticed the waitress approaching. She looked to be in her early 20s, with dark circles under her eyes and a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her name? Tagreed, Kara. "Good afternoon," she said, forcing cheer into her tone. "Welcome to Leighton Grill. Can I get you started with something to drink?" "Just water for now, thanks," David replied, his eyes scanning the dining room. As Kara turned to leave, he noticed the way her shoulders hunched slightly, like she carried an invisible weight. He also caught the sharp glare of man, the shift manager, judging by his stance and constant hovering through at her. Kara stiffened. David spent the next several minutes studying the environment. The tables weren't particularly clean. A layer of dust had collected on the decorative wine bottles by the wall. Staff interaction was minimal, robotic. No smiles. No warmth. When Kara returned with the water, she slid it onto the table without meeting his eyes. "Do you know what you'd like?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I'll take the ribeye," David said, deciding on the house specialty. Kara nodded and jotted it down. "Medium, medium rare, medium rare." She hesitated for a moment, then leaned in slightly. Her voice dropped even lower. "I'll put in the order. Please don't make eye contact with me when I come back." David blinked but nodded slowly. She gave the briefest of glances, then turned in, left. The moment hung in the air. A strange request, cryptic and slightly unnerving. What was going on here? He noticed the manager again. He was barking quiet commands to a busboy, snatching a plate from another server, and walking around like a general inspecting troops. There was no camaraderie, only fear. 15 minutes passed. Kara returned with the steak. As instructed, David kept his eyes on his plate. She set the food down, adjusted the napkin at the edge of the table, and then, with the skill of a magician, slipped a folded napkin beside his fork. She walked away. David glanced around. No one seemed to notice. The manager was berating someone. Near the bar, he carefully unfolded the napkin. Inside was a small, handwritten note. Asterisk, please help us. Management is abusive. Cameras in staff room. We get screamed at for talking. Don't tell anyone I told you. His heart pounded. This was more than poor service or bad food. This was something dark, something systemic. He looked again toward Kara. She was standing stiffly near the kitchen doors, hands clenched behind her back, eyes fixed on the floor. David no longer tasted the steak. He sat still for a long moment, mind racing. This wasn't just a matter of poor leadership. If what Kara said was true, there were serious legal and ethical violations happening under his nose. From his vantage, point, he noticed the small security camera mounted near the ceiling of the server's entrance. Not unusual. But then he saw another one peeking just inside the hallway that led to the staff break room. It wasn't visible to customers unless they looked for it, but it was clearly watching the employees. David quickly made a mental list. He would need to confront the general manager. He'd need to pull security footage, speak with HR, and most importantly, protect Kara and anyone else who might be facing abuse. But he couldn't do any of that now, not in disguise, not without jeopardizing her safety. So he finished his meal in silence, nodded at Kara when she passed again, and left a generous tip. As he exited the building, he passed the manager. The man didn't even glance at him, but David got a good look, and he never forgot his face. The visit was over. The real work was about to begin.